Peace and vibes to the Divine Nine Ether Tribe. How y'all elevating today? It's your girl Monica. Monica Israel, aka the Mahogany Sunflower. How y'all elevating today? Today's video, well, welcome to all of the Divine Nine Ether Tribe that is returning. Welcome to any new subscribers. If this is your first time here, hey, come on in, take your shoes off, ground. Today's video, we are going to be talking about the upcoming full moon in Gemini. And of course, as always, I got some herbs, delicious herbs for you guys to elevate during this season, all right? So if you're interested, stay tuned. Okay, so in this video, we're going to be talking about the full moon. The full moon occurs on December 7th in the sign of Gemini. It's going to be in the opposite sign of the sun, which is going to be in Sagittarius, all right? You know, we are in Sagittarius season currently, all right? That's Sekhmet energy. If you're interested in Sagittarius season, 9th house energy, herbs of the 9th house, go ahead and check out my last video. We talk about all about the new moon in Sag and Sagittarius season. Okay, so the intentions for this video, we're going to be talking about the full moon. We're going to talk about Gemini. We're going to talk a little bit about planet Mercury and a little teeny tiny bit about the 3rd house. I want to focus most of the energy around Gemini and the full moon energy. And then I'm going to give you guys, as always, a list of herbs. It's going to be a pretty hefty list of herbs. But I want you guys to make sure that you go into your research. Do your own research. This is just for like base knowledge, surface knowledge. The rest is up to you because certain herbs have more side effects. So take it upon yourself to go ahead and do that research that you need. Okay, so let's get into it. So we're talking about the full moon in Gemini. Full moon in Gemini coming up on December 7th. And I think it's to peak around about 10:07 p.m. All right, Gemini is a positive, mutable air sign. Geminis are characterized as being the actual sign of Gemini represents a lot of duality, about balance, about opposing sides, opposite sides, the choices, having the option to choose, okay? Gemini can have a little bit of a reputation of being like real sporadic, brained all over the place, indecisive, very versatile. They can be characterized as very chatty, very communicative. They love to talk. All right, that's all part of that air, especially that Mercury energy. They love to talk. They're very playful, witty. They can be very giggly. Okay. And this is any placements. If you have any placements in Gemini, you will have some of these characteristics within you. All right. So if you're wondering why you may talk too much, you may have a lot of Mercury energy. You may have a lot of Gemini energy. All right. Also, depending where these signs fall into your houses. Okay. It's important to decide where your it is important to know where your signs are in the planets and in the houses, because they will each affect differently, right? So with Gemini being an air sign, so Geminis can be very sociable, very playful, but they can also be very easily bored. They can get very bored quickly because their mind is always on the go. They like to do. They need constant stimulation in their environment and mentally. They can't be doing one thing for too long, and that's just a part of that dual, like both that twin energy, that 噚, that Mawu and Lisa, that Asar and Aset energy, those twins, that that light and dark, that positive, negative, that just there's dual, there's two, there's Gemini is very multiple. All right, it's about the multiples. There's multiple ideas, there's multiple opinions. All right, there's when you think of Gemini, you can think of multiples. All right, They're very, like I was saying, they're very sociable. They like to converse. They like to talk. All right. So expect when you talk to a Gemini for them to, one, have very strong opinions, and be, want to talk about that a lot, and very, very chatty about that. When you talk to a Gemini, also expect them to change their mind maybe quickly. All right. They maybe decide on one thing 1 second, and then the very next breath they'll change their mind and they'll want something else. Okay. But it's there, that inner battle, that inner mental battle of like the feminine and the masculine, or like the right and the wrong, or like I said, the light and the dark. All right, they're constantly weighing both sides. There's always this or that. All right. It's very difficult for a Gemini to be like too stagnant. They don't like to be in one place for too long. They don't mind change. They actually cope very well, and adapt very well into their environments. When they change with the change in environment, they love it. They love um, the constant change. They love, because they love new. They love anything new and shiny and appealing, and that's going to just stimulate them because they're curious. They're very curious little kittens. All right, they're very curious. They're very inquisitive. Ask a lot of questions, and just talk. All right, any air sign, any air sign loves to talk. Okay. All right. So with this need to communicate and talk, they are like big Mercury energy. We know that Gemini is ruled by the planet of Mercury. All right, if you don't know, now you know. No, Mercury is the fundamental energy of Mercury is communication and learning, and that is surface, all encompassing what Gemini represents. All right, and very much that's third house energy as well. How we communicate and how we learn. Geminis are all about communication and learning. It's a priority for them. It's just their nature. It's their first natural instinct is to communicate and to learn, and to communicate what they have learned. All right. And some negatives about Gemini, though, that they can be, um, because they have that duality, because they represent a lot of that dual energy. They can like I said, can have difficulty sticking to one thing. And they can sometimes like play both sides of a situation, or like a conversation, or like they can play one against the other, like not taking too much full accountability, kind of like scapegoating the real of the real, or like the real of the situation. All right, they have the tendencies to kind of just remain surface. They don't really like to dig too deep into emotions, tap too deep into their emotional state. They can be, they can be more logical. All right, they're definitely more logical, especially as an air sign. They're more logical over emotional with our water signs, right? They like to very much think. Everything's a thought. Everything's a track thought process. All right. So be careful when you're dealing with Geminis, because they can have that tendency to be very talkative, talk your head off, okay? Change their minds quite often, quickly, have multiple ideas and opinions, and won't hesitate to state those. And they also can play both sides, all right? Like negatively, like that can be a positive, but to play both sides can be a negative as well. Okay, so now let's talk about the planet of Mercury. All right, Gemini is ruled by Mercury. Mercury, like I said, is a planet of communication and learning. All Geminian energy, all Mercury energy is going to be about how we communicate, different forms of communication, as well as how we learn. Okay, so the planet of Mercury is the closest planet to the sun, and it's probably about 28 degrees. It remains about 28 degrees from the sun at all times. When Mercury can only ever reside in the opposite sign of the sun. So like I said in the beginning of the video, we are currently in Sagittarius. So Mercury is going to exist in the opposite side in the sign of Gemini. All right. So Mercury is big Mercury energy, communication, learning, how we communicate, how we communicate to others, how we learn and perceive. It represents the rules, language, all right, trade and commerce, all right, anything that has to do with trade and commerce, and that's including like markets and all type of markets, all type of exchanges of goods and services. Mercury has to deal with all of that, all right? So if we want to look at how the economy is doing, what the economy is doing, where the economy could be going, we want to look at Mercury. And if you want to talk more about how all of that, how you communicate, how like trade and commerce, how you learn and all of that, look at what houses you have in Mercury and what planets you have in Mercury in your chart. If you're curious about your birth chart, if you want to find your placements, I will leave a link in the description. I actually prefer AstroSeek over what's the other one, astrology.com or something like that. I think both of them do well. They give an in-depth explanation of the houses. So whatever resources, use as many resources, read it, take as many resources as it takes, so that you can get a deeper understanding of what each placement in your chart means. Okay. So the planet of Mercury talks about trade, commerce, learning, the rules, siblings, education. All right. Talks about the youth, the thought processes, opinions, and our factual memories. Okay. So again, when I talk about communication under Mercury, I'm talking about all forms of communication. All right, that is including like how we speak to one another, how we communicate to one another. That's also telecommunications. All right, telecoms. All forms of any modes of transportation, whether it be a train, a bus, a car, a bike, anything that's going to allow you to travel short distances. All right. Mercury energy is Geminian energy is third house energy, is very short distances. It talks about the short distance, where we were talking about in Sagittarius, in the opposite sign, where we Sagittarius talks about horizons and long distances. So again, so we're on the opposite side. Okay, the opposite. So whatever opposite of Sagittarian energy is likely going to reside in Gemini. All right. Very, very, very come together right there, right? So very short distances, how we travel, anything that has to deal with short time frames, shorter journeys, not the long journeys, not how far we're willing to go, not how far we're willing to travel. All right, where Sagittarius is more about the travel and the distance, right? Gemini or Mercury energies is short distance and short travels. So after short journeys, we also have falling under the communications like of trade and commerce. It also talks about like I was saying before, like the markets, the stock markets, the exchange markets, any commerce type markets, selling of goods and services. This also has to deal with like our school systems, right? Schools, where we learn, where we communicate, where we educate, where we get our education, and like stores where we buy things, like markets, how we trade, barter things, our money, you know, like how it is that we exchange, all right? How we commerce, the definition of commerce, okay? Trade and commerce. Like I was saying a little tiny bit, we're talking teeny bit about the third house. I'm going to kind of save, I feel like I might do a different video, a full depth, another video of actual like Gemini, once Gemini season comes around, all right? Because I kind of want to focus this energy around the full moon in Gemini, okay? So a little bit about third house. Like I was saying, third house represents, again, education, our youth, communication, short distances, short travel, short journeys, as well as like relationships with our siblings and like cousins or like school friends, or like I guess like aged peers peers of our age group, right? Third house is very language, all right? Talk about the languages that we use, and third house is going to really tell you how your early education is going to be, what it looks like, what it entails, and things of that nature, right? So that's third house energy, all all makes sense as we, trickle down here in the sense of Mercury, the ruling planet, Gemini, the sign, and then third house residing in all of that energy, all right? So now let's get into December's cold moon, all right? The last full moon of the year. Yay, we did it, we made it. This is the last full moon of the year, December 7th. It is known as the cold moon. All right. Although global warming will probably have us having like a 50-degree 60-degree day on Christmas or some shit like that, right? So spiritually, this cold moon is going to be exactly that. We might have like this full moon, we might have this energy, the spiritual energy of kind of being a little cold and closed off, maybe a little bit more reserved. I mean, naturally, right, when it gets cold, people go inside, people snug a bug, all right? People are a little bit more distant. That kind of, not to go so deep, but more of that kind of like seasonal, the word I want to say is like depression, but not that deep, right? That seasonal fatigue, that seasonal need to like close off, close in, close away. This full moon is going to be not as intense as the November eclipse full moon. If you want to hear about the herbs in that season and eclipse season, you guys can go watch that video. This moon is not going to be as intense as that moon, or like bring about as many emotions. Actually, I mean, it may, right? It may bring about those emotions because we're like that. This full moon is talking about, like new cycles and like completion of cycle, like more so the completion of cycles, all right, and letting go and releasing like those feelings, subjects, situations may come back, may present themselves. The emotions surrounding you that were present during the last full moon may present themselves in this season, in coming up pre-shadow during the full moon and post-shadow, right? So pre-shadow 3 days before and post-shadow 3 days after, and occurring like the day or day after of the actual full moon. You're going to be feeling these energies, all right? You could be feeling them up to a week before and a week after, right? It just really kind of depends on where you are, and like everybody's going to be different. We're all kind of on the same wavelength, but other people take more time, less time to feel things before. I tend to feel the effects of a season way before the actual astrological events. But I also sometimes do notice that I do pick up on the energies after, and like I'm able to reflect on it afterwards, right? So this cold moon is going to bring up some things of the last season, of the last full moon, of the eclipse, all right? We probably are still going to be settling from all of this eclipse energy. We're probably still going to be like trying to figure out what it is that caused all of whatever, whether it was some of that destruction, that chaos, that death and rebirth energy that kind of showed face. All of that is going to be, the emotions surrounding that are going to be here. And with this full moon, with this cycle, this talking about, we want to focus on the release of that, the letting go of that, the endings of that, all right? This is the completion of the cycle. It's done, it's over. We don't have to worry about it anymore. We can tap into those emotions, acknowledge them, and then release them. With the energy of this moon being in Gemini and the duality, the representations of the duality of this moon, we are going to want to spiritually, you are going to want to spiritually focus on the human side and the spiritual side of self, all right? You are going to want to focus on how you exist in the human world, in your avatar, in the matrix, and then you're going to want to also equally focus on how you exist spiritually in the ether world, in the etheric world, all right? especially as a melanated being, how you are focusing on self, how you are getting back to source, how you are honoring source, how you are honoring those who came before you, meaning your ancestors, close and distant. All right. You want to be able, we want to focus really in on harnessing our human and spiritual energy in unison. All right. Duality. Everything's dual. We want to focus on the masculine and the feminine energies. All right. We want to focus on the divine feminine energies in unison with the sacred masculine energies. All right. We want to make sure that we are whole, that we are balanced, that all of our energy centers are balanced. If anything is imbalanced, we want to take the time, take a step back, and really give ourselves a chance to be still, be quiet, honor our space, honor ourselves, and get back in balance, get back in line, get back to self, right? So with that, you're going to want to naturally, like with this moon, you're going to want to naturally focus on like what it is that you really need to release, like what it is that you really want to spend your energy on, like what it is that you want to give your time and your focus and your commitment to. All right, what you want to communicate about, what you don't want to communicate about. All right, with this energy of the full moon, we're also going to want to be careful with how we communicate, right? Because during this lunation, we're also going to have a Mars conjunct the moon. All right, Mars is going to be conjunct the moon during this cycle. So that means Mars is very high energy. All right, that's that fire, very high energy, fire starter, very action oriented, very energized, very go, go, go. So with this Mars energy being very fiery, paired with Gemini in conjunct the moon in Gemini, we are going to have to take heed, all right, to our mouths and how we speak, all right, our throat chakra. This Mars energy can bring up feelings of like anger or like frustration, right? Especially if we're going to reflect on the last season and like what the last lunar cycle brought in our lives, like what kind of dramatic, traumatic towers, life lessons that the last cycle brought into our lives. We're going to want to like refocus or like get back into that. Like we're gonna have to talk about it. Like we're gonna have to unpack it, whether that's with self or with like outwards to others. And if you are going to express yourself outwardly to others, do so. Speak your truth. Do so kindly. Regard your words kindly. All right. It's okay. It's okay if it comes out anger. Anger is a valid emotion. You know, sometimes we feel a little guilty for being angry. All right. Sometimes we feel a little guilty for lashing out at people or like saying things maybe we didn't mean to say in the moment. Maybe like situational things, you know, elevated that anger. But Mars energy is going to be very fiery. Mars energy is very fight, fight, fight. Fight now. We can talk later. Like argue now. We can talk never. Like it's very forceful, very powerful. So just be careful when you are having your communications, when you are communicating with people. Put a little water on that fire, okay? You don't have to completely simmer it out, but just mellow it down just a little bit, all right? Because this Mars conjunct energy is it can be intense. It can get intense, all right? So you just want to kind of take heed on what it is that you're saying it and how you're saying it, and don't feel guilty. You can apologize. Don't be afraid to apologize if something happens to come out a little angry. All right, anger is a valid emotion, especially if you're speaking and standing in your truth. All right, but don't be too proud not to apologize. All right, be humble always. Allow yourself to be humble enough to know that you, yes, you were right. Yes, you were trying to make a point, but how you came across didn't have to come across like that. Okay, so the lesson here is to be courageous and honor yourself and honor how you speak. All right, honor how you speak to yourself and how you speak to others. Stand firm. Okay, stand firm in yourself and stand up for yourself. Okay, that's the lesson here. All right. And lastly, Neptune is also going to be present during this lunation, all right? Neptune is going to be present, the planet of imagination and spiritual realms and intuition. So we're going to get lended a helping hand when it comes to our spiritual side, when it comes to balancing, the matrix and the ethers. All right, we're going to get a little bit of a helping hand during this lunar cycle with the planet of Neptune, because we are going to get a little assistance from the universe and showing us signs and giving us confirmation when we have intuitive nudges or like psychic moments, all right, with clairvoyance. And if you experience any of the clairs, all right, clairvoyance, clairsentience, claircognizance, like anything that kind of comes to you down from as a download, or I like to say as an upload from the spirit realm, take heed of it and trust yourself. Trust yourself. Trust the knowledge that you are being given. Trust the information that is coming to you. All right. Especially if you have been honoring that duality, especially if you have been keeping up in your spiritual protection, if you've been keeping up in your spiritual protection and you're not being penetrated mentally, all right, especially if you're an empath and it's hard to decipher your emotions already, all right, if you are in tune, you will be better assisted. You will be able to hear even more clearly, even louder, the signs and confirmations of the universe. Neptune is going to be on your side during this lunation, all right? So you're going to be able to get a helping hand and just confirming what it is that you already know or knew or think or thought, okay? So yes, be prepared for that. Be prepared for things to reveal themselves, all right? Neptune is, all right, hidden realms, so things are going to become spiritual realms. Things are going to come out. Things are going to come out spiritually, energetically, all right, spiritually and energetically, spiritually, you're going to feel things intensify, okay, if that makes sense. All right, and lastly, before we get out of here, we're going to talk about some herbs. Herbs. We're going to talk some herbs. Right, I'm going to give you guys a little list of herbs for the full moon and then for Gemini, all right? Let me actually do Gemini first, because my list of Geminian herbs are a little shorter than the full moons, okay? So if you are a Gemini, if you have Gemini placements in any of the houses in any of your planets, all right, you are going to want to do your research, all right, and consider about herbs like basil, bergamot, assam, and allspice. If you are any Gemini placements, very talkative, communicating, learning, trade, commerce, anything like that, all right, if you need that that energy, you can try any of these herbs, all right? Most of these herbs can be used in like love, money, magic spells, all right, or like luck spells. They are very good protection herbs, as well as like psychic, intuitive herbs, all right? And speaking of psychic and intuitive herbs, under this full moon, because we understand the full moon is about, the cycles, the completing of cycles, coming to an end, letting go and releasing things, all right? And to honor that Neptune energy, to allow us to do that even more, we're going to want to tap into our spiritual side, into our psychic, into the psychic realm, all right? So we are going to want herbs like mugworts, all right? Now you can make teas, tinctures, tonics. We're going to talk more about those. I'm going to do some videos on those, all right? And the different types of herbs like adaptogens and stuff like that, all right? So more mugworts is a good herb for the full moon, all right? Very popular herb for the full moon. Enhances our dreams, all right, and our psychic abilities, all right. And it also helps, all right, in honoring the moon and all the phases of the moon, because mugwort helps in all of the phases in our womb, all right, in the woman's womb, all of the different phases that the womb goes through, from menstruation to pregnancy to childbirth to menopause and anything that has to do with our womb, all right? So we want to honor that. We can honor that with mugwort, right? And definitely do your research on mugwort, okay? Also, to honor this full moon, we can do things like cedar, chamomile, juniper, frankincense, rose hips, myrrh, thyme, milk thistle, peppermints. Mint is one of my favorites. Poppy seeds, star anise, white sage, okay, lotus, and lemon balm, okay. If you want to get any more information, go ahead and do your research on the properties, the proper dosages, and things like that, okay? As a little bonus, I'm going to give you guys some journal prompts, all right? I will leave the questions up on the screen. You can either screenshot them or just write them down as I speak, all right? So the first question, the first journal prompt is, how can I honor myself? How can I honor the duality in myself during this season? Second question, how can I adapt better to new situations and circumstances? All right, and that is all I have for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope that the messages here resonate with you and you found them helpful. If you like anything in this video, please make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe. If you like the vibes, Divine 9 Ether Tribe, and I will catch you beautiful Etherians in the next video. Elevate, 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 elevate. Peace and love, y'all. Ashe.